Like I can already feel like you guys are gonna like do cool stuff.
Into the motive.
Just being good to one another.
Yeah, you guys are doing a good thing here.
The people at the top collaborate, and the people that are at the bottom compete.
Yeah, it resulted in me shooting him.
I was charged with 109 and a 50.
Ultimately, you'll get to where you want to go if you push yourself enough.
I genuinely love this conversation.
I love the Motive Podcast.
Welcome back to the Motive Podcast. I'm your host, Leo Kosuch. Alongside me is my co-host, Kyle Cohn. And joining us today, the founder of Allen Paca Knitwear, Robby Kedra. Thank you for being here, Robby.
What's up, guys?
Our former guest, Gina, connected us with you. So we're gracious for you being here.
Yep.
So we were talking off camera about like a lot of stuff growing up around here, whatever. What was I gonna start with? Oh, do you like grow up around here? Is this is kind of the homeland?
Yeah. I grew up in Delco, Delaware County. I don't particularly rep Delco, but I did grow up in Delco. I went to Upper Darby High School. Super big, super diverse. Loved it. Had a great experience. And then moved to Westchester, Chester County after college for work.
Yeah, the Delco thing is like wild. Like I feel like people be like, is that like recent? Like, is the pride in Delco always been that strong, or is that like a past? Like, I feel like I see so many people online just like going off. They're from
yes
Delco.
Yes and no. Particularly where I was from, yes.
Okay.
They always rep Delco pretty hard.
Okay.
I was from like Alden, Seacane, Clifton Heights area. So those people always rep Delco hard. But it's become more and more of a thing, especially with sports. I mean, Philadelphia sports has been great the past couple years, so that's amplified all of it. But yeah, Delco.
Yeah, Delco proud. So for school, like we were talking about college just recently, but school overall, like you just said you went to Upper Darby. How was like your Upper Darby and like lower school experience? Like what were your hobbies and interests as a kid? Like did fashion excite you during that time or anything like that?
I mean, fashion was always there. There were waves of where I cared about it and didn't care about it. I mean, like, there was even a stage when I was super little where, like, I only wore the color blue. Like, I refused to wear anything else. I was probably, like, 5 years old. My mom was always super fashion forward. She would, like, have a little notebook of her outfits and write them down so she didn't duplicate outfits. She was a teacher at Lower Merion. So she always had cool fits. But then where I really started to care about fashion and how I dressed was at high school, at Upper Darby, because it was so diverse. There's kids from West Philly area coming in with Jordans and, all the different swag. So I was like, all right, I got to step my game up a little bit. And to be, a white guy who cares about that, it helped me stand out.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But yeah, like elementary school and all that stuff, I didn't really care about it too much. Middle school started to think about it a little bit, but high school is really where I started to care. And, really look into pieces and start to learn brands and fashion and all that stuff, yeah.
Were you like a shoe guy at all? Like, did it start with like the Jordans and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I would camp out for Jordans, all that stuff. And this was before the era of like the sneakers app. Or buying online. Yeah. So like you would go to the mall and camp out the night before.
Right.
My first pair of Jordans that I camped out for were the Black Cement 3s.
Okay.
Which timeless, always amazing. And only option was to get them retail. I wasn't paying resale for those back in the day in high school, you know what I mean? So it was like sometimes you wouldn't get them. You'd wait in line, you'd be like, I missed them. And then that was it.
Yeah.
That would stink. You wait, making all that effort and you don't even get them? Like, I couldn't do that.
Or like they'll have like
works.
11 and a half. I'm a 10 and a half. They might have the 11 and a half. And you're like, damn, do I get them and then try to sell them and use the money towards getting a pair? But nah, I didn't do stuff like that.
That's funny.
I never resold.
Yeah, the whole like resale selling business, like you mentioned, like with the apps and everything, is like just left a huge impression on like the sneaker community. Like I did it for like a bit. Like I feel like everyone did at some point. Like I don't know, but like I have so many pairs of shoes that it's just like I'm not like as into it anymore at all. But yeah, man, it's crazy. Like with all the StockX stuff and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. And I was still buying all the new stuff. Like I got pairs of Travis Scotts and all that stuff.
Okay.
But I've pumped the brakes on the sneaker stuff. I've been trying to buy more like nice boots, good leather stuff, less hype sneakers that might be out of style the next year.
Yeah. 100%. So transitioning from high school, so where did you go to college? What was your after high school plan? Like, where was your mind at? Because we were just talking where we're at.
I knew I wanted to do business in some way, shape, or form. I'd always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Like even back in elementary school, I won this, it was called the Invention Convention, like entrepreneurship competition. So I knew that was there, but I didn't have like my eyes set on something super specific that I wanted to do. And when you're 18, it's hard to know and to even like think that far in advance. And to go to school for just entrepreneurship is kind of random.
Right.
So I knew I wanted to do business. So I went to Bloomsburg University for a couple years, and then I transferred to Delaware Valley University in Bucks County. I was a marketing major both times because marketing was just kind of like that broad, maybe go into any industry, but I knew I liked branding. I knew I liked, visual stuff. And then Del Val was really good for me, smaller program. So I got really close with those professors, and some of those professors are the reason why I was able to actually like go through with my clothing brand idea. Because when I had it, I came to them and told it, and they're like, Robby, you have to run with this. They even had the one professor, Bill Veal, had this small business entrepreneurship club that was all these affluent business owners in the Doylestown area that they would like, have monthly sessions and talk about business ideas. And he's like, Robby, you got to come and present. So I presented the idea, and they all loved it. They told me to go with it. It kind of just gave me that confidence to, start buying samples and really run with it.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. Two opposites, Bloomsburg was really big. Del Val was small. I can't say there's a right or wrong with either, but it's kind of just what you make of it, really.
Yeah. How big is Bloomsburg?
I don't even know a number off the top of my head, but it's big.
Yeah.
Probably similar to Westchester.
Yeah. I want to get into like travel. So like you've been around. What's all the travel for? Why? When? And like the favorite place you've been? All that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty lucky. My aunt is a marine biologist.
There you go.
So she was always stationed at really cool places all over the world. And she got her PhD in Indonesia. So I went to Bali, Indonesia when I was in 7th grade, I think. And that was my first time like really doing a big trip. And it was before Instagram where, traveling was super popular. Luckily, she had been living there the past few years and knew the local language. So she was kind of our tour guide, but we went there for 2 weeks and it was just incredible. The scuba diving there was insane. The nature, all that stuff. That's what I really like with traveling, the nature. So that kind of sparked it. I wasn't able to do much traveling after that up until, I got a little older, 18. We did like family trips to Mexico and things like that, did the cenotes. Whenever I go somewhere, like I'm trying to do something with the nature, outside of just, experiencing the culture. I love all of that. But if I'm there, like I want to see the coolest thing the nature has to offer. Mountains, cenotes, places to swim, jungles, whatever it is. So that was really cool. And then I went to Ecuador after I graduated college. We went to the Galapagos Islands, which is off the coast of Ecuador. And that was incredible. That's where like Darwin did his whole theory of evolution stuff. It's like very protected land. And they only let a certain amount of people visit every year. And that was just awesome because it's like a different planet every single little island you go on. So that was really cool. But then when I got back, it's off the coast of Ecuador. So you fly in to Ecuador after you do the Galapagos. And we spent a day there. And we went to a bunch of markets, and that's actually where I bought my first alpaca sweater. And that's what sparked the idea. Because I'd always wanted to start a clothing brand, but like I didn't know what it would be. And when you're in college and high school, you don't really have money to start a brand or just throw money at ideas. So I graduated college. I bought that sweater in Ecuador, a couple months after I graduated. I'm like, oh my gosh, this might be it. And just started Googling stuff, figuring out as much information as I could, and just started calling people to make it happen. Yeah.
So what was like, where was your mind at for the startup? Because that was like, you're saying that was kind of the motivation behind it.
Yeah, that was the inspiration, really. Startup wise, it was just try to get samples made. Because at first I'm thinking Ecuador. So I'm on Google trying to find this exact sweater that I had bought. And it's like some crazy kind of Aztec print type sweater made from alpaca. But I couldn't find it anywhere. It was just like handmade by some artist in there in a small market. But as I did more research, I realized everything was based in Peru. And then I just started calling people on Google until a guy was like, all right, yeah, I'll make you samples. And then that's when I then went to my professor and said like, hey, I'm putting this together. Because it wasn't expensive to get samples made. Yeah, it costs more than, what the normal retail price would be. If you're making a sample, you're going to spend a lot on one piece of clothing. But it wasn't like a massive amount that would stop me from doing it. And then once I had the sample in hand, that's when I really kind of went out and started to talk to people about it. But it wasn't some massive investment that I had to put up front to make it happen, which is lucky, because a lot of people that start a business, you soon realize like, oh my gosh, I got to fork out all this money to make it happen. And then that stops people from doing it. But yeah, just got samples in and then bulk ordered them and just started selling.
And what was the process of like the samples? So you just like, what was the process of finding the guy to make them and like kind of like explaining your ideas to him and getting them out on paper?
Yeah. So oddly enough, the guy who owns my manufacturer is based in Pennsylvania, which was just random and lucky. He has the facilities in Peru. His wife's from Peru. So when I called, he picked up, and I think he's retired now. But I called and he picked up, and I'm like, hey, I have this idea. Would you make it happen? And I told him my story, and he's like, all right, I got you. Because he first had, he started his business 20, 30 years ago. And he's like, yeah, I went to Peru. I came back with a suitcase full of stuff, and I sold it all at the main line. And he knew that I was in Westchester, close to the main line. So there was kind of a cool connection there immediately. And he was willing to, do a smaller batch thing for me and, make my idea come true, because we kind of hit it off in the very beginning. So that was lucky, and that was really cool just to experience. But I haven't really spoken to him much since. He just told me, all right, I'm going to put you in contact with my head of sales in Peru and just take it from there. So I literally talked to him on WhatsApp.
Okay.
And I send him, it's called a tech pack. If you're designing clothing, you put together a tech pack of what you want, the sizing, what it could look like, reference ideas, fabrics, all that stuff. So then they'll send you like sample fabrics, and you can say, all right, I want this. Do you have this color? But all back and forth through WhatsApp. Luckily, we're spoiled in America with English. A lot of the world, especially international business, like they know English. So like the language barrier, I haven't really had to speak much Spanish, which is lucky. Yeah.
What is there a certain reason why alpaca? Like, why did that spark your interest?
It was just nice, and it was different. Like I had ideas in high school and college of brands, but it was like screen print T-shirts. I grew up in the era of like Diamond Supply Co. and Obey. Supreme was there, but Supreme was more expensive. Right. So like if you didn't have Supreme money, you would go to the mall, you would buy Obey. You would buy Diamond Supply Co. So like that era of screen prints was there, and like I would have ideas throughout high school and my younger years, but like when it really came down to it, I didn't want to do screen print T-shirts. It just wasn't enough, and I knew that the longevity wasn't particularly there. So when I bought the alpaca sweater, I was like, all right, this is different. Also, I bought it in South America. Like it was way more affordable than if I bought it up here. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I could easily flip this. But then as time went on, I'm like, wait, I could design a whole product line. I could make my own sweaters. I could do my own designs. I could just do, you know, classic timeless pieces that'll never go out of style. And yeah, just kind of took it from there and just tried to pull inspiration from like Ralph Lauren and like all those classic Americana brands that just never go out of style.
Right. Yeah. How has it been like sourcing it from Peru? Have there been like any like hiccups? Like what's the shipping length? Like all that stuff.
I mean, there's always hiccups
Right.
with the entrepreneur stuff. It's crazy. And yeah, the Peru aspects adds another layer to it. You know, I'm paying custom fees. I'm paying all these freight fees, you know, so you spend all this money on product and then you get it in, you're like, wait, I got to spend another $1,000 just to get it through customs. Or it's sitting at a freight warehouse for a couple days and it's not cleared. So now I'm paying extra money to get it processed. Like there's always stuff with that. And at first, like it's kind of stressful, but as time goes on, you do it more and more. Like you kind of just like, whatever, like I have the money allocated. It's fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. I just need to get the product. But turnover wise, it definitely takes a lot longer than if I was sourcing from, you know, China or stuff like that. And that was one thing that I knew I didn't want to do. That was another cool appeal with the alpaca stuff. It's like, all right, it's made in Peru. They've been making alpaca clothing in Peru for literally thousands of years, you know, going back to the Inca Empire. So like it's a big part of their culture and they take it really serious. So like the craftsmanship is really good. So that was another driving factor behind all of it. But yeah, it takes time, you know, like I'm in the process of designing new stuff right now and I'm hoping to get samples in, you know, maybe in 2-3 months, but probably won't have the bulk order in for another 9 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not trying to do this stuff for fast fashion,
Right.
you know? And if your designs are timeless and I'm not trying to ride trends, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because it's not going to go out of style. It's going to be just as cool next year. So that's why I don't really care about it sitting or it taking a while to get made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would take that long, especially like, I guess with the foreign aspect, like how long, like extra stuff, it just takes forever.
Yeah. And it's random. Like, you know, you start a brand and you don't realize that you got to, you know, like do graphic design stuff or, oh wait, now I'm picking zippers or I'm learning what the difference is between a woven tag and a printed tag and like the little minute details. That's when it starts taking a little bit longer because they're also sourcing that stuff too.
Right.
You know, they have to go out and find these zippers that I want or special order them. But Peru's cool because there's a big textile hub there as well.
Okay.
So like they're able to source all these different things because they do a lot of clothing in Peru.
Okay, sweet. What's been like the hardest and most unexpected part of the whole project in general?
Social media is always difficult.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Like you start a brand. All right, I like designing clothes. I like fashion. All right, now I need to become a social media influencer as well for my brand. You know, I gotta make content if I want it to blow up. So that's always kind of been a pain. And it's weird because, like, all right, you make a cool post and it does well. It feels great. But you, like, got to go and make another one. Got to go make another. So, like, this year I'm really trying to just have fun with the content again and, like, take it more serious, post more consistently. Because it's weird. Like, Instagram really, like, doesn't translate to sales as much as it used to. You know, at first, Instagram ads, okay, I'm going to get rich off Instagram ads. And my brand's going to blow up. It's not the same as it used to be. It's very saturated. So once I was able to just tap into like the local community and start doing local markets, that's when the brand started to pick up and get known.
Right.
And that was very rewarding.
Yeah, the social media stuff is just like you were saying, it's oversaturated. It's just so hard to like grasp. Like you just got to be constantly doing new stuff. Like the thing that you do this week isn't gonna work next week, and it's so hit or miss. Like I was telling you, the guy I work for and run all the media, like it's so like I'll put so much time into using like a good camera and like I'll spend hours and hours on like a 30-second clip. It'll do horrible, and then like he'll put his phone down and like film 30 seconds of him just putting his phone down and like walking away and putting some music over it, and it'll just like blow up. Like
Right.
there's no way to like capture it.
Yeah, it's tough. And like oftentimes when it's just like the organic, you don't really care, you're just posting to post, that's when it does well.
Yeah.
It's when you're overthinking a million things that you get trapped into this, idea of branding and, creating content that you often just don't do anything or it doesn't perform.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to do this year. Just have fun with it, not take it too serious, just post more consistently and just, it's not the end all be all.
Right.
Like you really don't need a massive following to have a successful business.
Yeah. That's like you said, it's easy to get like lost in the sauce with like all the numbers and everything. Like just have fun with it.
Right.
What do you like? It's kind of bouncing off of the question I just asked. But what's the biggest thing you've learned overall? Is there one thing, one big takeaway?
Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurship has been so cool. I've learned a lot about like Shopify, e-commerce, branding, selling, all that kind of stuff. Probably the coolest thing that I've gained a lot of experience in and is really cool to see because it also ties back to marketing is like the consumer's human behavior. People are doing stuff and they don't even realize it. They're going in and they're grabbing stuff and they don't even know that their brain is doing it. So if you set up your shop in the right way and it looks really good, like it will attract customers without even them knowing, So that's been really cool to see. Like I've invested a lot into how my setup looks and, the visual merchandising aspect of all of it. When in college, I worked for the Gap. I did visual merchandising for the Gap as well.
Yeah.
Just, being a sales associate, selling stuff.
Right.
So I've always enjoyed that. So now to do that for my own brand, it's been really cool. And when it works, it's really cool to see. Because
Right.
you can kind of just kick back and be like, all right, is this person going to notice, this little sign that I put there? Are they going to read it? Or are they going to come up and ask me? So that's been cool.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get into I know nothing about this. So like fashion shows. I know there's like Philly Fashion Week. Like what's the process of like fashion shows and like what's the whole goal of it in terms of like marketing your brand and all that stuff and specifically the Philly one. But walk us through it.
So fashion shows, like if you're a designer and you're a brand and you're putting on a fashion show, it's purely marketing. And a lot of those pieces, like they're not even necessarily selling. They might be making just special pieces just for the show. So I haven't done one because I'm really trying to just establish myself as a brand first. And like, I'm not sitting here making like one-off pieces just for a fashion show.
Right. Yeah.
But it's cool and it gets your brand out there and they're fun to go to. Like it's cool to sit there and, swag out, have your coolest outfit on and, see all these other brands. Philly Fashion Week in particular, I've gone to a handful of times. It's Philly, you know what I mean? So you get a lot of different flavors, which some people might like, some people might not like. My particular brand is, pretty traditional, classic designs. So if I was to do a fashion show myself, I'd have to like go out and, either design super unique pieces or source some really cool pieces that would work for the show. So that's why I haven't done it. But maybe in the future, I'll make it happen. It's also expensive. For me to allocate a bunch of money to do a fashion show right now doesn't really make sense. Purely for marketing. I'd rather spend the money elsewhere if I'm doing it on branding and marketing. But it's different if you're just a designer who, is making clothes every day and cutting the fabrics and putting together pieces. Like it's a way to get your brand out there.
Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, you're good. You're good.
Where's the Philly one held?
They do it at like a different location every year. Yeah.
Just ranges. Is there like an entry fee or like how do you?
I don't know, but I don't think it's cheap. It's
Yeah.
probably a couple hundred.
Right.
And that's just to get in. Then you got to pay for models. You got to pay for all of your outfits and, spending money to put that together. If you want some DJ or person to MC it, you got to spend money on that. So that's why I never did it. I've contemplated a lot. I even thought about putting on my own show.
There you go.
And that's probably what I would do first, put together some show myself. Because I have people who are in the fashion industry and, have put on their own shows and saved a lot of money. Yeah, you don't get the the Philly Fashion Week stamp, but you still put on a show. You still have the content and the pictures and the photos from the event.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, makes sense. And like you were talking about marketing, so what is kind of like the process of marketing? Because I see like clothing and apparel brands do like drops and have like stock. Like what is that marketing process like? And like with the idea of like doing drops and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the drop stuff, like, it really depends on how big your brand is and how many people are gonna buy your stuff. Like, if you do a drop and it sells out, like, that's great. But for me, like, I'm just trying to create collections. Like, I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, it's gonna sell out in the first day. You know, like, I'm not dropping a pair of Travis Scott sneakers.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like marketing it, ideally you're kind of doing it in multiple ways. Like, you have your samples that are good to go and you're like uploading pictures of those and you're kind of like putting it out there, seeing if people like it. You could even do like a pre-sale or a pre-order, you know, while it's on its way, ready to get sold. Like, you do a pre-order, you can get some sales with that. But then once it's in, like, that's when you got to get to work. So you got to take photos of everything. You got to do modeling photo shoots, people wearing it, and just product shots of it, just like on a white background, and then just upload it on everything you have. Hopefully you have some email base as well. You're emailing it out to your customers. Hey, new stuff's in, things like that. I've always tried to model stuff myself. One, just to save money. Two, just to rep the brand.
Right.
But I've paid for models to do photo shoots.
Yeah.
And we're lucky around here. There's like oddly a lot of alpaca farms.
Really?
In Pennsylvania and the East Coast. Yeah, it's like it's more of like a hobby thing. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I have a horse farm, I have chickens. Might as well get alpacas because they're so easy to take care of.
Really? Yeah.
So I know some alpaca farmers around here, so I'll go and do photo shoots at alpaca farms in PA.
Okay.
And just make cool content.
Right.
So it's kind of lucky. It's like, yeah, all my stuff's made in Peru. Alpacas are native to Peru. The whole industry's in Peru, but I got an alpaca farm 15 minutes away. I can go and film content at.
I was asking Kyle before the episode. I was like, is there like a difference between alpacas and llamas? Like, I was like, well, what, like, are they two different animals? Which we looked it up. Yes, they are.
Yeah, they're cousins.
Okay.
They're cousins.
What's the difference? Do you know?
Llamas are a lot bigger.
Okay.
A lot bigger, a lot meaner.
Are those one like spit on you?
Yeah, they spit on you more. They're not as
Alpacas
friendly.
don't do that.
Alpacas do, but mainly at each other.
Okay.
They might. An alpaca might spit at you if you're like grabbing its food away from it. You know what I mean? But in Peru, llamas are like pack mules, right? They're big. You know, they'll strap bags to the back of it and, you know, walk up a mountain with it. Or llamas are also somewhat protecting the herd of alpacas. Because like a llama will go after a predator, an alpaca will not.
Interesting.
And alpacas are purely just domesticated for livestock. There's no like wild alpacas. There might be some alpaca that, you know, gets off the farm and runs away in the Peruvian mountains for like a couple of years, but like they're not wild animals. They've always just been domesticated for livestock in the same way like a cow is.
Yeah.
But in Peru, they, you know, shear them for their fleece and make clothing with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're cousins, and they're also cousins with camels.
That makes sense.
As well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other ones. There's another one in the family called a vicuña, which is
Heard of
even
that.
more rare. And that clothing, you can find vicuña coats for 20 grand
Wow.
online.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better be good stuff.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
How is Peru as a country? Like, have you been to like Machu Picchu and like stuff like that? How is it?
Yeah. I mean, you got to do all that. If you go to Peru, it's so far out there that like you got to do Machu Picchu in as much as you can. Lima, where my supplier is on the coast.
Okay.
Okay. Is that one of the main cities? Is that
Yeah, their main biggest city. It's huge. So you fly in there. No matter where you're going in Peru, you always fly into Lima first. So I spent a couple days in Lima, getting together with my supplier, seeing the team. That was really cool. All the behind the scenes stuff. Took them out to lunch. You know, we went to some like authentic Peruvian barbecue place. They're like, no one has ever done this for us.
Okay.
So that was really cool. It's like 15 of them. They're all like, are you sure? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah. They're like, we're going to lunch. I'm here. Like, let's get cabs.
Yeah.
We're going.
Yeah.
And it ended up being like $95.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that was a cool, special moment to do that in Peru. And then just spend time in Lima. The markets there are really, really cool. A lot of cool touristy stuff. But then from Lima, you take a small plane to Cusco. And Cusco is where Machu Picchu is and all the super touristy stuff. Like, people will go into Peru just to go to Cusco.
There you go.
And I have a buddy who's a photographer that I met through Instagram who lives in Cusco. He grew up in Peru. He left to go to school in Germany. And now he's been in Peru for like the past 8 years, and his camera skills are insane. So he just reached out to me on Instagram, and I'm like, all right, I need to plan this trip. We're making this happen. So I got together with him. We spent a week together, rented a car. He took us everywhere. It was awesome. It's like a private tour guide who knew the culture, knew the ins and outs, took us to all these like secret little spots.
That's awesome.
And he was filming content the whole
That's the
time.
way to do it.
But I bought him a drone. I shipped a drone down there. We were filming drone content.
That's so cool.
And then on the last day, we went to this place, Alsangate, which is where all of the alpaca farms are. Not all of them, but a lot of them are in Alsangate. 15,000 feet elevation. Like, this is intense stuff. My girl just about had a panic attack when we got there. I'm like frolicking through the woods. Like, this is awesome. But it's like an intense hike. But there's also like thousands of alpacas everywhere.
Wow.
So he broke out the drone. We were flying around. It was awesome. Made a whole day out of it. So that was really special to have him as a tour guide and to do all that stuff, because like planning that, at first I'm like, all right, I need to find some tour guide who's going to make this all happen. But then I'm like listing out my itinerary, and since it's for business purposes, like there's a lot that I wanted to do, and he got that.
Yeah.
And he knew where to go, and like he was all about it. I actually got to send him some more stuff to film more content, because he's awesome. Yeah.
How is Machu Picchu? Like, it's like, obviously the pictures look amazing. Is it touristy? Like, does it give off that vibe, or does it feel, as good as it looks?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely touristy. It's probably the biggest tourist attraction in all of Peru.
Yeah.
And they let you in waves, right? So like when you buy a ticket, you buy like a 2:30 time slot.
Yeah.
Right? And you like walk around it for like an hour, maybe 2 hours. And you can choose to like hire a guide who's going to tell you all about the history. But Machu Picchu is really cool because typically the way people do it, you take a train from Cusco to the town where Machu Picchu is. And it's like this train along, it's like cutting through the mountains, but there's water along it as well. And you can choose to take a panorama train that has a glass top. So it's like the train ride itself is really cool. And then you get into this town that's like nestled in this valley, and there's a massive stream running through it. But you're also like in the rainforest at the same time. There's mountains all around, but technically where you are is in the rainforest. And then from that town, you take a bus up a windy road that looks like you're ready to fall off the side of a cliff. And for anyone who's listening, if you've been to Machu Picchu, you know that bus ride is sketchy, but it's fun. It's part of the experience, and it kind of gets you excited.
Right.
But then when you're there, like, it just opens up, and like you feel like you're so close to the sun and like so high up. The altitude's insane. And you're like, how the heck did they build this here?
Right.
Like, it just really opens your mind. And then there's random things there, like, they'll have a little stone carved out that would get filled with water, and they would use it to track the stars. Little things like that that really make you think like, wow, these people were a lot smarter than we thought they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is, you mentioned, like, doesn't Machu Picchu like stand? Isn't it like the sun or like the sun gods or something? Like, what?
There's all
I
of
feel
that.
like there's something like.
And I don't know if they particularly know exactly what it was for. Whether it was built by some king as some sanctuary or built as a military base. What exactly it was, and it actually went untouched for like hundreds of years, and it was kind of just like local legend. And the Spaniards, like, the reason Machu Picchu never got destroyed is because it was so far up in the mountains that the Spaniards like didn't really like go there to dismantle it. But it was always kind of like local lore, like, oh, there's this, fortress in the mountains. And that's how the locals talked about it. But then I think in like 1800, someone, he might have been from Europe or America, like went there and like found the site, and then they started excavating it and, cleaning it up. And now it's like a huge part of the Peruvian economy and tourism board. They bring in a lot of revenue from it, so it's important. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I highly recommend if you can
love
go.
to
Make
go
it
there.
Love to
happen.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying like so I've been to Hawaii. Is it like kind of like does Peru have like beaches like coastal town like kind of like
Yeah.
that on the water and then the mountains? Like, that's kind of the picture I'm like painting in my head.
So Peru's massive. Peru's a big country.
Okay.
Um,
What borders it?
like Ecuador,
Or is Brazil border kind of close?
maybe it's kind of close to there.
Let's see. It's like
I'm trying to think. It's the west. It's the
I'm
west
doing
side
that.
of South
Yeah.
America, I think.
Yeah.
Northwest.
yeah. Yeah.
So it's big, and yeah, that whole left side of it's coastline.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I
like
didn't realize how
Lima's,
big it was.
yeah, Lima's on the coast.
Right.
So when you fly into Lima, I spent a couple days there. Like, there's a big surfing community there. We went to some super cool restaurant on the coast. You know, a lot of fishing, all that stuff. So yeah, it's a coastal city. But Cusco's in the center of the country, and that's all just mountains.
Yeah.
But like insane mountains. Like the Andes Mountains is like nothing like you can imagine.
Yeah.
But you just got to think like, all right, the alpaca's native to the Andes Mountains. You know, they're used to a climate where when the sun's out, it's super hot. When the sun's down, it's super cold. They're at 15,000 feet elevation. So you can just imagine like how their fur developed over millennia to combat those climates. And that's what makes it such good clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the altitude poisoning like ever get to you? Like, did you feel it?
So I took, there's a prescription medicine you can take
Okay.
to prevent it.
Yeah.
And you do it like a couple days before. And I did that just because like my schedule was packed.
Yeah,
like,
right.
and I'm there for business. Like I could not afford to
Yeah.
get sick.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any issues. People do experience it.
Yeah.
I mean, just to put it in reference, like I think right here in Pennsylvania, like the highest elevation, something like 2,000 feet, maybe 3,000 feet at most.
Okay.
Colorado is like 9,000 feet. Alsangate, where the farms were, 15,000 feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, like that's insane.
So the air's really thin up there.
Yeah, and a plane flies at 30,000 feet.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? So just think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're halfway to where planes fly.
Yeah.
So you're that much closer to the sun. The sun's intense.
Yeah, yeah. I was when I was in Hawaii on Maui. There's this like mountain called Haleakala. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the volcanic mountain that like the whole island of Maui was like formed on. So like Haleakala's here, and like the whole island was kind of formed around it. And there's a big like drive up that's like it's like I think it's like 10,200 feet, and it just drive up the mountain. And like I thought I was gonna be totally fine, and then I didn't get sick, but like I was starting to get like lightheaded. Like it just felt like you were kind of like car sick once you started getting up there. But it's crazy. Like you're above the clouds, like all that stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues. And I did a lot of things to combat it as well. Drink a lot of water. They do this thing in Peru. They drink coca tea. So it's the leaves of the
I've heard
coca
of those.
plant.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, locals will like chew on it.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah, but you can also make tea, and it helps with the altitude as
Yeah.
well. And that's a big part of like Peruvian culture as well, and the farmers in particular.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
it like really strong? Like the tea they make? I feel like I've heard it's like I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like it that much
Okay.
because it also, you know, messes with your appetite, which helps with the elevation stuff. So I wasn't really drinking that much of it, but the other teas were phenomenal, and the coffee was phenomenal there as
There you
well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, to transition from that, I want to get into the hot topic of the past 24 hours. I don't know if you've seen anything on this. The Grammys. Can we talk about some of the fashion choices at the Grammys? Have you like
I watched it.
have you seen all the stuff on that? Like the Will Smith with the friggin' house on his head. Like
I
what,
saw
Like
that.
what are your opinions on like all these celebrities that just wear like to a normal person that are just like, dude, what are you doing? Because there's something every year. Like it makes a statement.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big part of it's just LA culture. You can
Yeah.
get away with that. And then like once you hit celebrity status, like you kind of just don't care what people think. Like Jaden Smith, he
Yeah.
doesn't care.
Yeah.
He can be as weird as he wants because at the end of the day, he's Jaden Smith.
Right.
He's done movies. He does know fashion. Yeah, he showed up looking weird, but like that's kind of why you do it.
Yeah.
And like they just try to push the envelope because it's like, all right, what's gonna get me more known?
Right.
So he's
Yeah.
got swag. I mean, Kanye pulled up with his wife.
Yeah, that,
You know,
that's a
doing
whole other
crazy
story.
stuff.
Really interesting.
But Kanye West, you know, I pull a lot of inspiration from him and what he's
Yeah.
done with fashion and music, you know, the past decade.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, no matter which way you look at him, like, yeah, he's made his staple. Like I have so many pairs of Yeezys that are just like, the first time I got them, I was like, all right, I'm just getting them because they're Yeezys. But I wear Yeezys every single day just because they're so comfortable.
They are.
Like, it's just like the most
Yeah.
cushioned shoes ever. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that was cool to see him do all that with Adidas because, like, when I was in high school, you know, Kanye's first sneaker was a Louis Vuitton sneaker.
yeah,
And I remember thinking they were so sick, but it's a Louis Vuitton sneaker.
Yeah.
I'm not buying some $700 sneaker in high school.
Right.
And then he came out with the Nike Air Yeezys, and those were sick.
yeah. Were
But,
those like the black
impossible to
ones?
get. Yeah, black with
Yeah,
like
red.
glow in the dark sole
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
a infrared lining on the inside, and they were sick. And I remember they released them in Philly.
There you go.
But I couldn't get them. It was like some random Wednesday, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like a sophomore in high school.
Yeah,
And then after the fact, they're like thousands of dollars. And I think now they're like
they're like over 10 grand. Yeah.
And then
They're
the
like
Red
that.
Octobers he dropped too. I remember all of that. Remember Kevin Hart, I think he paid like 30 grand for his Red Octobers
No way.
when they first came out. And I think now they're finally worth that much again. But like that era of Kanye was like so sick, but those were impossible to get. So then when he came to Adidas, like that hype was still there, but then it started to become more attainable and you
Yeah.
could get them. But at first it was still hard as hell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember like in elementary school, I was like, "Oh, Yeezys are like the highest. Like, oh, I gotta get Yeezys." But the Red Octobers, I'm just looking right now. Yeah, they're at 10 grand.
They're insane,
8
yeah.
grand.
And those glow in the dark too.
Yeah,
You know, that was what was cool about like the little things Kanye did. You know, he did like the fish scales on the side and the glow in the dark sole, and
Yeah,
you know, it was just sick. 3M, the toe box reflected
yeah,
in the light. Like,
yeah. Are you did you listen to his music? Are you a Kanye fan overall?
yeah, I like all his music really.
Okay.
To be
Yeah.
honest, his new stuff, his old stuff. There's this one. So I found this YouTube page. It's it's like basically like Kanye West songs, but it'll change your life. So it's like this guy, he does like a DJ mix of his songs, but he
Yeah.
makes like a 4-minute song, a 10-minute song, and like makes it melodic and like stretches it out. I've been on that a lot recently,
go.
listening to a lot of that because it's like my favorite Kanye songs, but then like a longer rendition of it, or like something that like Kanye would do at a concert, you know,
Right.
and like blend two songs
Yeah.
together. So all of his music I like, even his newer albums I like.
There you go.
You know, Donda, I thought
Yeah.
that was great. The Vultures stuff I thought was good.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's hits and misses there, obviously.
Right.
Like if you're an artist, that's just how it is.
Did you watch the was it documentary or docu-series, I forget, on Kanye on Netflix? It was like
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah, I watched that.
Yeah.
From like that guy who followed him when he was younger, and
Like
I think
Cootie.
so.
I think his name was Cootie.
Yeah, I
Cootie.
watched that, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
That too.
I thought it was
mean,
good.
Yeah, he's just like, he's really made like every dream of his a reality.
Yeah.
Like you can't deny that.
Exactly. That's why
You
it's
know?
like there's so much Kanye hate at the end of the day. I don't really care. Like you got to give him credit where the credit's due. Like
Yeah.
and seeing all the behind the scenes stuff, that's what really fascinates me. Like any like small business owner, small like anyone, musician that's like coming up, like it's so cool to see like the behind the scenes, someone filming them, all like just everything. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, he said messed up things and controversial things, and
Yeah.
that's kind of always been his shtick.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't deny that he's amazing at creating
Yep.
and music and fashion and you know just about anything he puts his mind to, he does well.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Is there any other like artists in terms of fashion and music that you kind of aspire to?
Yeah, back to like the high school days, you know, when I first started caring about fashion, Big Sean,
There you
Mm-hmm.
he was big into like the there was this brand called Tisa, so they would do
Okay.
like vintage starter jackets, but then it'd have like this big embroidery on the back, and like the classic starter snapback hats with the
Okay.
green brims. So he was definitely a big inspiration at that time. His fashion has changed a lot. You know, that was like the classic kind of what we were just talking about. Like once you get big and turn into a celebrity, like you kind of just dress however you
Yeah.
want because you don't care what people think about. But like when he was a new artist before a lot of people knew him, like he was really trying to, you know, have that swag and, you know, let people know like, all right, I know what I'm doing here. So Big Sean, I pulled a lot of inspiration from him, fashion the old days. Today, it's kind of hard to say because, like, fashion is a little weird right now in the sense of, like, super baggy clothes with, all black and stuff like that. Like, that's just not my swag. I pull more inspiration from, like, Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger. There's some good celebrities, actors. Timothy Chalamet, he's got swag.
He's got swag.
Yeah, he's got major swag. He does some stuff that pushes the envelope a little bit, but he's never too crazy.
Okay. It's so funny. Like Kyle just looked at me. So the guy I'm playing, like the musician guy, he's like, you gotta like dress the style, like, cause he thinks he's got like the best style in the world. Like we joke around, like I kind of like give him a little crap about it, but he's like trying to change my whole style. I'm like, all right. He's like, we're going shopping. I'm like, all right.
Did you do it yet?
I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
I mean, this is the debut of this hat he gave me. It's like a cherry LA hat. I don't know if you know the brand, but like, it's like $100 hat. I'm like, I'll wear it. This is the debut. But no, it's just so funny because like the Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren stuff is like what I wear. Like it's like that's what I like.
Right.
But he's like trying to get me onto like the baggy stuff and like hey, I'm open to ideas. That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, I mean the skinny jean era, was big when I was coming out of high school going into college, and I had skinny jeans. But like I never really loved them that much. I've always just been a regular fit kind of guy. Not a baggy fit, just a regular fit. Like you gotta buy clothes that you're gonna like when you're older as well. Like my whole thing with the alpaca stuff, like this sweater here, like a teenager could wear it, a grandfather could wear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna go out of style. It's gonna fit all of them. A guy could wear it, a girl could wear it. So like once you start to dress more classic like that, in my opinion, it kind of elevates the look. But celebrities, it's a different thing. And when you're an artist, it's a different thing. You're trying to stand out. Like you want to get noticed, you want to get seen. I've been to events where, Jay-Z is there and he's suited up with a crazy Patek watch and he's classic. His aura was insane. And then you got Quavo there too, who I got a picture with, who has grills in and, like a crazy outfit, but still just as swaggy, just a different type of person and, different type of era in his career, really. Because when you're young, you're just trying to do anything. Like, you don't really care.
Yeah, 100%. I was gonna ask, like, with it being wintertime, is it like kind of like a more popular time of the year for you, like with all your knitted stuff and all the wool and everything?
Yeah, it's definitely seasonal. It picks up September, October, November, December, January, February, which I actually don't mind. I somewhat prefer it right now because, I do have a full-time job. I'm a CFP. I work at a wealth management firm. So I'm able to kind of put the alpaca stuff on the back burner during the spring and summer and, focus on other things and try to get other things done, accomplish other goals. And I don't have to be, 24/7 with alpaca.
Right.
And it also allows me to design and brainstorm on marketing ideas for the next season of alpaca.
Yeah, I feel that.
So it is seasonal. I'm starting to design stuff that can still sell in spring, summer. Like I put together this really cool athletic sock. It's like a low cut. It's almost like a golf sock, right? Okay. So you could wear it golfing. You could wear it playing pickleball. You could wear it with sneakers in the summer. And since alpaca is breathable, and alpaca fiber is hollow, right? Cashmere merino is solid. So think about the strand of hair on your head. Instead of it being a solid strand of hair, alpaca fiber is hollow.
Okay.
So because of that, it makes it really lightweight, but then also breathable because warm air can kind of permeate in and out of those hollow air pockets. So like your feet don't sweat when you wear the socks. So realistically, as like a spring summer sock, this low cut one, it's like the best sock you could wear.
There you go.
And that's something that I could still sell in the spring and summer and kind of stretch out that season.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's February now. The season's ending. All the holiday markets are coming up to a wrap. I just had my best year ever. So like now I'm just trying to plot like, all right, how do I stretch this out and get more sales in February, March, April to then have an even better year going forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's knitwear, like I'm not pushing stuff in the summer. I'll tell you that much. And even like into September, it's still pretty warm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But we're lucky to be in an area around here, Chester County main line. Like, there's a lot of holiday markets. There's a lot of shop. People are also pretty fashion conscious around here and dress well, and there's wealth, and they have money to buy premium products. So I've been very fortunate to be around here, and then also like tap into the community as much as possible and really build the brand that way.
Yeah. Do you enjoy the wealth management job? Like, just,
Yeah, so it's cool because, like, for me, I've always been a pretty creative guy, and I didn't go to school for finance. But as I've done it more and more, like, being in the service industry and helping people, and when you're doing it for the right reasons, like, can be super fulfilling. So I've been able to kind of scratch like both sides of my brain with that. Like, I get the service industry, you know, I get that, you know, finance stuff, tracking numbers, you know, doing all of that, helping people with their investments, helping people with their financial plan, business owners, all that. And then I also get my creative outlet where I can design clothes and, you know, do Instagram posts and do fashion shows and fashion shoots and all that. So it has been a challenge to juggle both of it. But, like, you know, I was saying it earlier before we started, like, I'd rather have a lot of things going on and have a lot on my plate than nothing at all.
100%.
Because I think that's really important, especially as men. Like, you kind of need that sense of adventure and something to challenge yourself, even if it's super hard and difficult. Like, you just have to challenge yourself always and try to push through and get stuff done. So the finance stuff has been a challenge as well. You know, there's crazy tests I've had to study for. I took the CFP in April last year, March. Can't remember exactly, but like, that's a 7-hour test.
Yeah.
You sit down for 7 hours. You know, like, this isn't stuff that you do in college. No test in college or any sort of school can prepare you for that kind of stuff. And you have to take 5 collegiate level courses. It's basically like a master's program just to sit for the test. And once you're done those, then you know, spend a couple months doing a crash course to take the test. So, like, that's been a challenge. That was hard as hell. And I wasn't always the best test taker either. You know, that's what prevented me, you know, from maybe doing finance in the first place, because I knew that, you know, it's a pretty hard industry and you got to know a lot and, you know, take these crazy tests to become a licensed advisor. But once I was basically just like, you know what, this is a challenge, and I'm even going to take this more serious because I wasn't good at taking tests in high school. You know, I'm going to, you know, all those self-doubts that I may have had when I was younger about, oh, not being a good test taker, now I can bury those and prove to myself, like, no, you can do this. So that was cool. There's still other stuff. Like, I did my Series 7 literally last week. That's another test you have to take. Nothing compared to the CFP. And then next month I'm going to take the Series 66, which is my final test. And then once I'm done that, I'm like fully licensed advisor, and can really kind of be gung-ho with that financial career and market that and, you know, start building a practice. So it's also very entrepreneurial as well, the finance world that I'm in particularly. Like, wealth management, you're building a practice, you're building a book of business, you're helping people. So, you know, you're basically starting your own business as well. So that's been cool. And while it has been challenging, I've enjoyed it. And I've gotten better at it too. And, like, to apply it to your personal self as well is huge. Like, I was talking to this e-commerce guy a couple weeks ago, and he pointed out something that I hadn't really realized up until recently, that, like, he's like, the reason that your brand has not failed and has been working is because you have a background in finance and you know numbers and you know how to run a business. Like, having a CFP, like, I learned about all different types of businesses and, you know, sole proprietorship, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, like, all of the ins and outs in that. He's like, that has played a lot into why your clothing brand has been working. Because clothing is, like, so many fail. It's so hard to do. And most businesses, anything, even clothing or any business, you know, the first 3 years, like, you're more than likely going to fail. I think it's like half of businesses fail in the first 3 years. But if you can get past that hump, you know, that's when it really starts to come together. But in all honesty, like, if you got to spend like 10 years doing this stuff, if you're not willing to dedicate 10 years of your life to a business endeavor or a dream that you're trying to pursue, it's not going to work, because the first 3 years are just purely trial and error. And then, the next 5 years are, okay, this is starting to make sense. I can do these things to make it better. But like, it's not until that 10th year really that like stuff starts to actually work. And I've been doing the alpaca stuff for 6 years now.
So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying about the, like, always got to be doing something, like always got to be like having that creative outlet. Like I talk about it a lot, like school for me, even like just as a senior in high school right now, like I enjoy going to school because it takes my mind off of the creative side of things, and then I'm occupied, and then when I come home, it's like I have the drive to be creative and work that side of things too. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, having something creative is super important. It's a lot of times easier said than done, and a lot of people aren't wired towards it. So in my opinion, like, you can find creativity in a lot of different things. Like, I'm also a big fisherman, right?
There you go.
And I could tie my own fishing lures and flies. That's creativity.
Yeah.
Like, you can find this stuff in a lot of different ways. And like, even if you don't think that you have something that you can work towards, or like this idea, I've been really on this whole like sense of adventure idea. Like, I'm always just searching for a sense of adventure, whether it's through business stuff or traveling or whatever it may be. But like, even if you think that you don't have anything going for you, like, you can still wake up and make your bed. You can still go downstairs and clean stuff up. You can still, get a nice haircut and, go put together a nice outfit. Like, you can find adventure in just about anything to improve yourself. So we're in this day and age where it's difficult because you're seeing all these successful people on Instagram and doing their stuff, and they all have their act together. But in actuality, there's a lot of people out there that don't. And it's easy to get down on yourself because of that. But like, if you can take that next step and be like, all right, this isn't super glorious, but it's something, then you can start compounding that and, build something from that.
Yeah, love it. So overall, what's the future look like for yourself and for the brand?
Yeah. So on a personal note, I got that Series 66 coming up in March. So once that's done, fully licensed, I can, be gung-ho with the finance career, which I'm excited about. And then, do more for my clients, but also from a personal branding standpoint. Like, I really want to start a financial planning blog and do that and create a newsletter, and just really market myself and let people know, like, hey, yeah, I have this clothing brand, but also like, I'm a CFP, like, I know finances. I can help you with that. And my clients know that. But like, my circle of people on Instagram don't really know that in the same way, because I haven't pushed it. I haven't marketed it. I've been spending the past couple of years just trying to get my licensing done. So I'm looking forward to that and just taking that more serious and, actually becoming a full-fledged financial advisor and, hopefully one day become a partner at a firm or go and start a firm with like-minded people and, really have an impact in that way. Alpaca-wise, creative-wise, just continue doing cool photo shoots and making content and having fun with it. Not getting lost in the minutia and, losing drive because it's like feeling overwhelmed. And then keep designing super cool stuff and just come out with products that are always good. And, I'm really trying to design a product right now that can be like that item that then, stores want in their store. Like, Buckman's wants this super cool alpaca product that I've designed because everyone loves it and it's a really high quality piece. Like, right now I've just been building the brand and like trying to get a following and, get customers and get my name out there.
Right.
But I would love to see alpaca start getting into stores and, get nationwide. And that's a challenge, but it has to do that, really, and like, e-commerce is there as well. You know, I need to pick up e-commerce sales. Like I don't want to be doing holiday markets for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's nice, you know, and you can have big days. Like I did the Westchester Chris Kindle market, which was sick because it was literally a block from my house.
Yeah.
You know, it was busy too, and I knew that. And it was a huge day. It was my biggest day ever. But like, I don't want to have to do those every year for the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really like, you know, I'm talking about that 10-year standpoint, you know, like if I get to that 10-year mark and I'm still like, okay, I need to do these markets every year, then I got to rethink things. But hopefully by that time, you know, I'm also in stores. Maybe I'm in golf shops, you know, maybe I'm in ski shops. And then it's like, all right, you know, I can kind of kick back and, you know, let the brand start running itself. All I need to do is just focus on creative stuff and make sure content's right and do branding. So that's really where I see it going. But like, I'm not going to stop the markets anytime soon. You know, it's an essential part of business. I have to. And it builds the brand. You know, it gets the name out there. You know, like I start seeing people wearing my stuff because they come up to me and say, oh, you know, I saw you at that market in Exton
Right.
and stuff like that. So that's been really cool. And, you know, I will continue those for the next few years at least. And maybe
100%.
branch out to other further locations. You know, like I just bought a trailer
Oh yeah.
a couple months ago.
Awesome.
Little 5x8 trailer.
Yep.
That I'm gonna, you know, kind of renovate and turn it into like a pop-up shop in itself.
Yeah.
Okay, I like
You know
that.
what I
That'd be
mean?
sick.
So like I could drive to some trade show maybe even 2 hours away because I got this sick trailer and just pull up and sell out of the trailer.
Right.
You know, like constantly upgrade. That's been a fun thing with it. It's like you know those games where it's like upgrade your castle.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how the alpaca stuff has felt. Every year, I've been able to upgrade and do more and more stuff, whether it's buying stuff for the pop-up tents or designing new products or putting money into ads or whatever it may be.
Right. Yeah. Love it. Kyle, you want to hit him with the final
Yeah.
question?
Do you have any advice for us?
So I think at your age, you know, like, you know, you're just out of high school, kind of don't know what's going on yet. And you're gonna face some challenges, especially if you're trying to figure out what you like, you know, or don't like. You know, things might be frustrating. I think the biggest thing is to just not be a complainer. Literally, complaining will get you nowhere in life. And like, if you choose to look at challenging things as an opportunity, then you will get so much further, and people will respect you so much more. Because no one likes a complainer. And, you know, it can be in any aspect or any career. So I think really just like, even if you have something that's frustrating you or upsetting you or that you don't like, just be like, all right, I'll get through this. This is temporary. If my mind's right, I can push through this and, you know, look at it as a learning experience. All right, now I know I don't like that, but I'm not going to complain and try to make someone else's life worse just because I don't like it.
Right.
So I think that has gotten me really far in life, and through challenges, because like, yeah, things could always be better for you, but they could also always be worse. You know, there's always someone who's going to be less fortunate than you, and there's always going to be someone that's more fortunate than you. And just think like, how lucky are you to be in a place like Westchester, in Chester County? You know what I mean? We got it made around here.
Yep.
You know, there's other people all over the world who do not have the same resources as us, do not have the same, you know, family situations and healthy relationships and, you know, access to so many different things, good schools, clean food, nature. You know what I mean? So just also be grateful, you know, and just content that even if something is not going well, that you can change that solely based on your mindset,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
100%.
I feel like so many high schoolers especially just lack that optimism to like, just like they complain about things, they feel like they kind of limit themselves and their mindset and like getting through something or achieving something. That I just feel like it purely is your mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I read this really great book, and I recommend this to all people, especially when you're younger. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. It's written by a guy who went through the Holocaust back in the 40s. He's like a psychologist, and he got captured during World War II, and he like lived at the concentration camps. And he says that the people who survived through that are the people who like still continued to think on the bright side and think about how good life is going to be once they're done this. It's the people who didn't just like give up on life. And that was really eye-opening. So I highly recommend that book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, I think it is.
Okay.
And it's a quick read. I think it's only like 150 pages. But super cool story and just really great psychology.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's a great place to wrap this up.
Cool.
So, guys, thank you for coming, Robby.
Yeah, man.
And by the way, shout out all your stuff. Where can everyone find your apparel?
At Allen Paca, ALLEN space PACA. That's the brand. Instagram is Robby Kedz, ROBBYKEDZ. Give me a follow. I'll follow you back. Let me know if you have any questions. And then, if you ever want to talk about business or anything like that, let me know.
Awesome. Motive Podcast. Signing off. Peace.
Cheers.